Yo, what's up, everybody? Dre Day all day, back in the place to be. And I got a special guest with me. But before I get into that, I'd like to thank everybody who listened to the last episode with Makers. Over 100 views. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me because it's been a long time since I posted anything on the Dash League TV channel that's got any reaction from the audience. And I guess just like you guys, just like me, you have a nostalgic kick. It's been 5 years, but it doesn't feel that long, but it feels like forever at the same time. Because Hyperdash stuff goes by fast, so 1 year could feel like 10. I don't know if you're with me on that. If you're not, then you think I'm crazy. That's okay. It's okay. I am on drugs. The next homie I got in the place to be is somebody who used to be in the clan. Well, he's still in the clan I am, but the clan is not clanning anymore. We just more like friend group. But he's in the clan group that I was in, and then also started the league with me. And it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool knowing this kid. Well, he's not a kid anymore, grown young adult. But in the place to be, he's your friend. He's my friend. He's everybody's friend. I got Laggy. What's up, Laggy?
Hello, everybody. Glad to be back. It's been a very long time since I was back in the place to be, and I thought that it would be. I thought I was. I'm not gonna lie. I was nervous as hell going back here. It was taking me all the way back because many things have changed.
Many things
Although
like
I do see your rig in the back over there, Dre, and honestly, I feel as homey as usual, man. I like your setup like usual, man. Glad to be back. So glad to be back.
I was gonna say, damn, the voice changed for sure, man. It's got way got like Barry Manilow deep. Like, goddamn.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Anyways,
guess that I've been getting that a lot lately.
it happens, bro. It happens. I mean, I went through the same thing, man. It was bad for me. I went from to and it was people didn't give me crap for it all the time, but it's cool. It's part of growing up. But
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
been up to, man? What you up to right now? What are you doing? What do you do for fun now? Right now?
Well, I have been lifing it up, my guy. I know that. Wait, honestly, I don't even like. Before I'm gonna back up a little bit here. So, hello everyone. My name's Laggy, and I used to be my name's King, and as a league player, my name was Laggy. I was in the Dash League in its dog days before all this crazy stuff with VRML, from what I'm seeing in the Dash League server occasionally, and I used to be a player on other. If anything, I'd argue that most of our veterans know my track record more than I do myself, which is something that I brought up when I actually played for Ajax a while back.
Man, you
That
used
was
to
probably most recently playing for Ajax, yeah.
you used to play from undisclosed locations, man. You used to play remotely from, and your internet was always bad, bro.
Yeah,
Has your
yeah.
internet gotten any
I'm
better?
Probably not because I am still in exact same remote location. Good old Alaska. You know how it is. I feel like that's part of like what made the whole experience a bit more unique. I understand that nowadays we have a bit more. I think we have like at least two other Alaskan players. I don't recall who those are in the Dash League server now.
Okay.
But I'm no longer the only Alaskan player that has played on the Dash League, but I was definitely the first, I'd argue. And and I felt like, because either way, my name Laggy, it just happened to become the whole thingamajig with my own like play style when my internet was like, because my internet's still pretty bad now. If you were to compare it to how it was like when I was first playing, it was terrible because that's where I was really living up the name.
Yeah, yeah, bro. You were really bad in game. When you used to play, we stream your view from that game. It would always be glitching.
Yeah, at some point I got a new set of internet and I wasn't necessarily freezing all over the place, but when it came to like het reg and stuff, it was still pretty prominent depending on how things were on that day. But other than that, laggy, I it just rolls right off the tongue. So
Nah,
I don't
man.
really
But
think too much about it.
even though you had bad internet, we still accepted you into our servers with your bad ping, and we still loved you like everybody else. Because I mean, yeah, like you say, you're on a couple teams. You started out with other, and that was one of the OG teams.
Yeah, other was a very, I think other had a very interesting story in the Dash League actually. Um
Well,
I don't know how to exactly describe it because from what I remember, my first team was Vader. Stayed on there for a bit because part of what if I wasn't incredibly indecisive at the time, I probably would have just stuck with other all the way through, because when I first hopped into Hyperdash, I was an alpha player, and I remember one of my first interactions with HH. Man, HH, that's the name.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
bro.
I felt like a bit of recoil from that. That was a whole blast to the past there, but kind of going all over the place here. But I remember
I won't
running
leave that
into
server,
some
bro. Even
HH
though it's kind
members.
of dead, I won't leave that server. I'm still HH
Yeah,
forever.
like it's just a whole treasure trove of memories. I just like can't bring myself to do it for some
Nope,
reason. It's just
never.
yeah. The thing is with HH is that I actually hopped in Hyperdash and put on the HH tags without ever actually being inducted. So one of the very first interactions I had in the Hyperdash community was, who's this laggy kid with HH tags? He's never, like, we don't know this person. And the thing is that I recall before that incident, before that whole thing happened, I wouldn't call it an incident per se, more like interaction. I actually did run in with HH members, and the obviously the first thing that I noticed was how their skill like completely was set off aside from the rest of the pub players. And at the time, I don't know who this HH member was, and it's still a mystery to this day. And I asked them if like I could join HH because they just had good attitudes. I don't recall what they said, but I didn't exactly hear a no. So I'm
Okay.
just like, oh, I'm sure HH are just these guys who just put on the tag, they run around, and they just have good attitudes and they're good at the game.
Yeah.
So, but at some point I did drop Hyperdash for a bit, but then I don't recall what alpha it was, but I did come back and it was with the HH tags and I got flagged down for it. And then eventually I would run into Chapo who was playing a gray match and I was like, can I join this clan? And then everyone's telling me to get Discord, and then by that point it was all history. To my knowledge, I do not think that there was any other HH member that joined the clan within a week of actually picking up the game and committing to it seriously. That was a whole aspect of my Hyperdash career that I was very proud of at the time, because it was also something that I was very it kind of it kind of like it was kind of I kind of like a if I were to describe it, it's like if you were driving an F1 car and
Yeah. No,
then you started making crazy ass turns, and I'm just like, okay, I'm in like one of the most infamous clans in HD Alpha at the time, and I have only been playing this game seriously for like maybe a week and a half ish, and all of a sudden I'm one of their youngest members too. So like at, that does things to a kid's head. So
yeah, man.
I was thinking to myself, all right, hit the brakes. You're still a new kid, so just hop on the ride, just go with the flow.
That's
And then I feel like sticking with that mindset is what defined most of my time in the league, even though I feel like my whatever my prime wasn't as long as I'd wanted to be. But yeah, Dre, even trying to say something there, my
no,
bad,
no,
but you
no.
cut me
I'm
off
saying
on
I'm
it.
just like that's a whirlwind, man. That's a whirlwind of a week. That's a lot. But everything was moving pretty fast in the beginning. Like with Hyperdash, like it was like boom, one moment, you're because I only downloaded Discord because of the Hyperdash. I
Yeah,
knew
yeah,
of
yeah. No, me too. Yeah,
I knew of Discord, like I knew heard of it, I knew about it, but I was like, I don't want to download another app and have to deal with have to figure it out and everything. I didn't want to deal with it, but for Hyperdash to get the game in order to play it, you had to have the Discord, and I was like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna go in there and download this and figure it out. And the people are cool as fuck. And then we all got in there, and it was pretty much a whirlwind. Like alpha after alpha, it got better and better, and then the league popped up, and within a week, we were like trying to make it as competitive as we could. And within a few months, we had our first finals, and then after that, we went into the seasons.
it's just we were in kind of a limbo in our lives during this time with the COVID-19 quarantine. There was a rise in depression rates, suicides even, and a lot of people were lost, with lack of a better word. And I feel like at the time, our younger generation had a huge deficit in growth as individuals. And I feel like myself at the time, who was very young,
Yeah,
really needed something like that, because just at the time, video games was basically all I had aside from my studies. I didn't really have much room to interact physically with my friends. We were because really video games were all we had. This technology that we're living with, I feel like it was really when we all began to realize to a certain extent that it really was the only link that we had to our hobbies, our friends, and without it, I just wouldn't know what kind of person I'd be today. Obviously, I'm not saying that my time in the Dash League was like completely not of regrets. Um, I do feel in some treks on that road, there were a handful of decisions that I made with certain individuals that I'm not exactly proud of. But something that I can say confidently is that as a growing as a for lack of a better word, as a child at the time, I had lost a significant amount of growth as an individual, but as a result, I feel like I matured in a way that not even I could have predicted. Um, that's just how life does it to you. And the person that I am right now, I am 18 years old. I That happened 2 months ago ish, and
Congratulations,
it's
bro.
yes, sir. But
What does it feel like
that
to be responsible for all your actions now?
responsible for all my actions. The
Yeah,
thing is that it's like you hear all of those things on paper, and then all of a sudden your whole world just turns into all of a sudden the perspectives in your world just like broadens significantly out of nowhere. You register all of that, yet still in the morning you still wake up as yourself.
yeah,
You're still you. Your hobbies are still the same. Your
yeah.
maybe the way that you think is still the same, but it's more like the concept of growth is something that you grab yourself. It's not something that just happens as you age. That's a completely different concept. You might physically age. That's one thing. But growth is something that you grab on your by your own hands, on your own accord. Because I've met a handful of people who have aged but haven't grown at all.
That's true.
So
That's true, man.
yeah.
And then people say it's usually people without kids. No, you can have kids and still be immature, for sure. I've
Yeah.
seen it, but it just depends on
And
your
it's
environment and
just
actions. What are you gonna say?
uh another thing that I did want to add was even though that it was just like something that would be considered as a hobby otherwise, this whole esports shtick with a whole league where I play video games with people and make money here and there through tournaments. I also feel like I grew as a person in that sense earlier too, and I brought that with me when I like retired in an official capacity too, because I realized that what something that I really wanted to do my best in when I was participating as a player was to make sure that it was kind of an impossible task, but I really wanted to be liked by everyone. Like I'm not exactly in that sense, but it's more like I didn't want any enemies, you know?
No, I get it.
So yeah, you get that. Because the thing is, Dre, like I think out of our casters, Dash League really was not the same after you kind of just like hopped out. There were that's a scenario that had its own circumstances, but that's a trait that I wanted to pursue, and that's probably one of the biggest things that I respected with you and our group.
No, yeah, it was fun. It was real fun starting out, and it was. I mean, I do appreciate that giving me an opportunity to get in there. Like I mean, because he could have just not, or did it a whole different way, and he did give me an opportunity to cast, and I always appreciate that, even though I didn't like how things ended up. But you know, it was it's the casting is whatever's is like whatever's, but I just like the community that we had, the
Community, yeah.
fun, the stories, the jokes, all that stuff. And yeah, like you say, you wanted to be liked by everybody. I mean, even though I'm a jerk and I speak my truth and everything, you kind of still want to be liked by everybody. I'm okay if you don't like me, but if you ask me, would you like to be liked by everybody? Yes, I would prefer it overall, but I'm
Yeah,
okay
it
if you don't.
was
You know,
absolutely,
but
absolutely.
also that's a trait that you definitely have way more when you're younger. Is like I just want to be a part of every group and be in every clan and be part of every club and just just because I want to have that many friends. And then as you get older, you realize like I'm cool with the friends I have. I want to have quality over quantity.
Right?
So
And I feel like it was a bit of a naive mindset.
yeah,
So I realized that later on. But either that doesn't mean exactly that I'm out of my way to make enemies, obviously, because
Yeah.
something that I really did pride myself during my time in the Dash League was how little interaction I had with drama. And I I recall bringing this up earlier about Other, but I do think that Other's story as a league team that is dissolved from the league was interesting, with lack of a better word, because from my perspective, I feel like Other, what to a certain extent, in the earliest of our seasons, they were genuinely family to me. The use of the word "were" it might be a little bit of a stretch, if anything, because part of me still does feel that way. Because at some point during that quarantine, I would wake up in the morning, and then I would just like, I was just, I was, I was thinking about how my buddies were doing on that league team. Like, I wonder what kind of strategies Gatsby came up with. I wonder what kind of fuckery Tor is up to in the pub lobbies. Or how is Lilbit doing? What kind of crazy shit is he up to nowadays? And I feel like the camaraderie that Other and I built in our earlier seasons was something that I could never ever give away. So that's why when I just like remember what kind of treks and roads that Other went through up until its dissolvement, I can't help but feel a little bit of regret, because I don't think that the the things that happened to Other as a team was exactly becoming of how I saw it. It might be just because I was a little bit younger at the time. That was probably just a matter of perspective. But the fact that it's still consistent with me now, despite all the things that I've been through, it just really nails in that idea. But it also just reminds me that, technically speaking, the Dash League that we had during the quarantine really was something that was one in a kind. Because
Yeah.
again, we, to a certain extent, all of us had some form of fellowship in a sense. Even though we were competing against each other, even though there was remnants of drama and bad blood, we were still incredibly tight knit as a esports league. And when I compare it to the current dynamic that we have now in the Dash League, and even though I'm not participating as an active player, even though I don't really do anything there, I participate in some idle discussion in the Dash League server nowadays. I feel like that we really did stray away from that. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because the way that I see it, what we had during the quarantine, that for lack of a better word, that family that we had, that was just something that was created by their circumstances. And if anything, the current Dash League that we have now is a lot more aligned with the Dash League that we all worked so hard to make it to be. So I feel like coming to terms with that was just like, not coming to terms with, but that's more like something that I realized, because that is a fruit of effort that none of us were able to really take full grasp of, because because now that the quarantine wasn't necessarily big of an aspect, what I also realized is that we were all growing as people, and life is a road. There are rocks on it, there are mountainous trails, and we just had to divert from our paths here, because at some point on that road, that road that we call the obstacle to our real lives being held up by the pandemic was all of a sudden lifted, and we wanted to go down it. And in that case, that was me growing up in my education. And for the boy Roy, it was the same thing. Actually, no, I'd say quite literally
Boy
for most of
Roy.
Other by that point.
Damn, you're bringing
For
back
most of
memories.
Other by that point, we were all just going down our own separate paths, because everyone had their own things going. Um,
Two things. Hold on. Two things I
when
want
it
to ask
came
you.
to what's up, what's up,
Two things I want to ask
what's
you.
up, what's
Was
up?
what happened? What happened with Other? Like, how did they solve it? Because I left. I left. League. I think 2024. They were still around, weren't they? 20,
Yes, they were. It's a very interesting thing. I don't really know exactly how to describe it myself. That's why I say that I find Other's story very interesting, because I feel like there was like a generation. There were generations of Other.
okay.
There, at some point, our entire original roster was largely gone,
Yeah.
with the exception of a handful of individuals. And by the time that um by the time that I left, I feel like that's when things really that's such a weird thing to say. But I know that by the time that I left, I was able to gradually watch as our original members would slowly just leave following through. And then by that point in our later seasons, our roster wasn't the same. Um when we had our more original line, No Shot, Tor, okay, Gatsby, little bit, and who else was there? We had Saber Quest and Worthen. If I missed out on your name, I'm sorry. I feel like I think it's impressive enough that I was able to remember you.
Yeah,
I know
I think
Alakai was there as well.
that's crazy that you
Alakai,
remember all
that
those
guy was a
names. That's
class act
fucking
too.
nuts.
But yeah, no, Alakai was Alakai. I think I don't remember what was the thing with Alakai. I think he was like the guy that taught me how to do sniping at first. Actually, that's hilarious. But oh yeah, it was No Shot. It was No Shot. Yeah, No Shot's like locked in real life from what I hear. Like he was like a crazy designer. I think it was No Shot that designed our logo.
Yeah, that is true.
Um, yeah. The thing is with No Shot is that he is an example of one of all of our other members that have like a crazy ass careers and shit. Because I know that all of us are delving into some kind of career right now, clearly. And I think the most recent one that I can recall right now is like woodworking of some sort with like Worthen, I'm pretty sure. But either way, the point that I'm trying to make is that they have their own lives. They're moving on
Yeah,
and they're just their own people. I know that Gatsby, I'm pretty sure he like runs a bar or some shit. That's cool as hell, by the
that's
way.
fucking awesome.
But but like yeah, like we all just took off to do our own things, and then a newer generation of other came in with their place. And by that point, I don't think that other was exactly, I feel like it kind of dissolves twice in a sense. It's kind of throwing the original members that remained all the way up to their retirements, kind of under the bus. But I feel like other in the sense had this feel that I mean, okay. What I wanted other to be was just a team full of top players that were essentially class acts and had little interaction with drama. It was essentially I would just wish that we aligned more with just like the chill guys, I guess. There was just something about other that felt very mature in a sense.
Okay.
And I'm not
Well,
saying
other was the
that
third
I
team.
were
Other was the third team. I think it was
yeah,
wasn't it the elites and then Op came out
elite.
4DV and then it was others
Yeah,
third.
for
No.
I don't recall, but I mean, like you might have known better than I do at that point, since I wasn't the one discussing with makers. but like I feel like other just had that feeling to them that gradually disappeared as the newer generation rolled in, and they had obviously I feel like other by that point had its own peculiarities and uniqueness that we didn't have and back in the day. If anything, I'd say that the newer generations other felt very hungry in a sense, that we had like more young bucks that were really willing to just learn. I think one of these guys, when other was still delving into having a division 2 team with O2, with oh man, that was something. I think one of the ones that stood out to me the most was Rusty, actually. I think I recall interacting with Rusty for like a little bit in like our discussions in the DL servers quite recently, actually. I might have played with them, in fact. But the thing is with Rusty is that, man, it was not only just skill at the game, but he had this whole thing with him where he had a big mouth that was backed up. I'm not throwing any shade here. I swear, because if anything, I listened to one of his interviews, and he is probably one of the most mature minds that have come to this league, like bar none. So, like just because that all of us know how to do our own shenanigans and our own tomfooleries, we're most definitely not going to reject the fact that we're all mature minds that have their own ideologies. Let's make that clear. But that whole thing with O2, that was when I was still like in a bit of like a mental block in myself, where I was like, I'm kind of falling out of my flame here, and I kind of don't like that. That's how I was perceiving myself when I look back now, and that's a part of though I feel like those are one of the decisions that I made in the league that I didn't really. But regardless, I just feel like it was just that period of transition that just was rather convoluted. Honestly, I don't remember too much, if anything, because I feel like both of us were kind of just going in and out. Like, Dre, like, what do you think?
Yeah. No, yeah, that was you guys competed really hard in the league, like throughout the seasons, but you guys were like nobody made the finals because the top three teams it was always team name, D and 4DV or Arc later.
Arc, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Arc.
yeah, yeah, Arc.
Absolute titans of our league. Yep.
Yeah, so it was hard to get past that, but others stayed in there. I appreciate their effort. They stayed in there, and those guys that are you're with, like Gatsby and No Shot, those guys were amazing. I like those dudes totally. And then you start
They
bringing back,
really were.
yeah,
They
that
really
was the cool
were.
thing about the league back in the days is that we all needed each other. Even the people that hated on each other, they didn't really go that hard, or maybe they did. I don't know, but I feel like nobody really went
Yeah,
hard on
maybe.
each other
Yeah.
because we needed each other. We needed everybody to stay in this league and compete. We still try to talk shit, but we still needed each other. So we helped each other out. We tried to motivate each other when we could. You know, we got
Yes. Yes, absolutely. One of the things that I was glad to have a departure from when I retired was the fact that I would well, I'm gonna rephrase that. When I retired and when I just stopped playing to an official capacity, even especially after leaving, especially after my season with Ajax, even after my season with Ajax, I was still watching to a certain extent. And as I was going on with my life, as I was doing new things, I would just gradually watch as people that I had good interactions with, people that I had a lot of fun with, and people that I, with lack of a better word, cared about. I watched these people clash at each other. Um, if I were to, for some reason, when I said that, one name did pop in my head, and that was Percent.
yep.
I'm going to be very careful as I speak these next few words because I do not know anything. I know very little, and I feel like a lot of the things that I'll be saying from this point will likely not have a lot of weight to it because of my lack of knowledge. But from what I am observing, from my point of view, this individual that I respected a lot, um, that I still do respect, that I still have a lot of fond memories of, him being viewed as who he is when his discussion kind of dissolved, it kind of made me sad because hard lesson in the sense that even though you might have good memories of this individual, that doesn't apply to anyone else, even though it's incredibly obvious. I feel like I should have known that from the very beginning because a lot of people that I knew in the league either got involved in some drama where they did something crazy or they got accused of doing something crazy and then they got banned. So like a lot of people that I formerly knew that I had a lot of pleasantries with and just a lot of people that I had good memories with. A lot of those people ended up disappearing from the Dash League server because they would get ran up into some kind of drama of some sense, some kind of incident, and they would get banned. And as I would gradually see that happen, it kind of literally happened to basically everyone that we knew by that point.
Little by
It's kind of
little,
crazy.
a lot of people, everybody stepped into some sort of drama. Little by little, it's crazy. Some more
Yeah,
severe than others.
I
Than others.
yeah, I don't know what to think of it because I just wondered. It's like if I was within that field of discussion, would like how would that have changed the ending perception of those individuals? I don't know exactly how to describe it, but we are playing in an esports league. We
Yep.
have players, we have personalities behind those skills, we have careers that are left behind with statistics, and all of those are left under a certain kind of light by the time that the curtains close on them. And basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is that all of these people that I shared a lot of fun times with, especially with Percent and I'd say Quadio as well with the Chili crew. You know, remember the Chili crew?
Yep.
I feel like the way that we had our own departures did not exactly give us justice, and I'd probably say that would apply to one of our older members of Other as well. And I think I wish that we had a better way of disappearing, with lack of a better word.
It's hard to go to fade out gracefully, man, and that's what happens not only in the league but in real life. Like you see Michael Jackson, R. Kelly, and all these people. If you live long enough, it's okay if you're Tupac and you die early, but if you live long enough, you might be embroiled in some sort of controversy over time, and sometimes you might be able to pull out of it, like like Will Smith's trying to do right now and stuff like that. But those are celebrities, and these are dash leaguers. But it sucks that it puts a stain on their like it's just like in sports. For example, Aaron Rodgers. I mean not Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodriguez, right? He wasn't even one of the guys that snitched on the steroids in baseball. Do you like baseball? No.
I recall hearing about it. One of my buddies
A-Rod, there we go.
delve
Anyways,
into baseball.
Alex Rodriguez,
Yeah,
there we go. Anyways,
yeah, that's
um,
actually a pretty good example.
and the point is like that happens in every sport and in life, and it's up to you and your friends. Like me living in like in the city in urban dwellings, I have to deal with some friends that are good people, and other friends that are not so good people. Some people that are gonna scam you, and some people are not. That's your life, and that's who you choose to be your friends. And they're still good people's, but they might be scamming other people on the side. It's up to you what you do about it. But that's
Right.
why I try not to judge people on what they do for the most part, as long as it's not costing anybody financially, or being very or physically or emotionally, like
But yeah, I guess like at the end of the day, despite all of the growth that I thought that I've been doing, to a certain extent, there's still that I still am at the end of the day that clueless kid that just kind of showed up to the league and just like ran around with everyone else in the dog days of Dash League. There's still that part of me
don't
there.
lose it.
Yeah,
Don't lose
should
that.
I?
Don't lose that that optimism, that wide eye. Don't lose it, man. Don't get bitter. It sucks.
I'll do my best, Trey.
I
Thank you.
mean, that's
I
my
appreciate
advice.
it.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but I don't know how you're feeling, but yeah, like when I was younger, like I really like everything was new, everything was exciting. Like I was willing to experiment, willing to try everything and anything, as long as it wasn't very dangerous or was gonna put me in a situation where my mom was gonna have to go pick me up. But you know, you gotta take advantage of that. But nowadays it's harder for people because the whole in my opinion, I feel like the world is different because not only is there
Absolutely,
heavy
yes.
social media, but there's heavy surveillance, and it's hard to be a kid anymore. I don't know. I mean, you're not a kid, but it's hard to be a young person anymore. Things are expensive.
Oh, absolutely. In this
Job
economy, it's diabolical. Yes.
jobs are drying up. Yeah, it's hard on you guys. Like you can't get a job at McDonald's because the old lady's working there. She's 'cause she doesn't have Social Security no more.
Yeah, it's also it's also like the whole aspect that the standard of living and the cost of living is so stupidly high. Like you can bear with getting off of minimum wage, it's rather difficult to keep up with your rent. And back in the day, I recall it's just as long as you just had smart decisions with your money, you would make it through. But the thing is that our current world is very unpredictable in that sense.
Oh, it's hella
I feel
predictable.
like by that point, I feel like your saving grace is like there are more things that are being added into our options, but that also means that it demands a lot more planning and thinking up ahead. Like if you're not committed to paying for lodging, then you'd have to be conscious of the fact that you would likely be put in a bad spot if you don't plan ahead. Because the thing is with like all this stuff with like your money and stuff is that there's a lack of knowledge about how to handle it, guilty as charged. But it's also the fact that you have to be very conscious from the get-go. If you don't have to pay for your taxes, if you don't have to pay bills for your house, then you ought to start making money as if you had to, because by the time that aspect goes away, when you have the whole aspect of having to pay for a whole lot of things that you have to do as a full grown adult, that's going to crush you immensely. Like most often than not, if you're going off of minimum wage, you're just barely going to be making rent, and it's not a fun life. Because by that point, you might have been able to succeed at like keeping yourself alive, but you're not living at all.
Yeah, that's a great point, man, and it's a great. I'm glad you learned that at a young age because going forward, you're gonna see the struggle is real.
Right?
That it's really real.
And it's just because what I found very unfortunate about myself personally is how I realized just how much was missing. But when I also think about how there are people that are more unfortunate, it's also what keeps me going as well. It's because, with lack of a better word, I've been saying that a whole lot, but it's really hard to phrase a lot of these ideas. It's just that I feel like when I look back on my own personal life as well, there were a lot of things missing. All right, Dashers, warning, I might get a little bit personal here, but I love you all for a reason, right? Um, I have I have a family that's not exactly perfect in that sense. How do I describe it? I've been living mostly alone for my whole life, with the exception of my parents and my siblings. It's just that I've been confronting a lot of difficult situations where I have an important person to me who is very plagued by their circumstances, in the sense that they have oh my goodness. Okay, sorry, we just heard a loud ass motorcycle outside, but um
Yeah, right. You farted, bro. Just admit it.
this individual of mine, they're plagued by they're just plagued by misfortune, in the sense that their mind isn't exactly working as ours do. They hear things that aren't there, they see things that aren't actually there, out to hurt them, and they go through, and then sometimes when they wake up in the morning, they forget what time of the day it is and what year it is, and sometimes they might text me on my phone about who I am, where they are, and that really hurts you,
Yeah.
because growing up, this individual was my role model. When they were still in high school, they really liked video games, and I always admired how they liked video games, because it proved to me that even though I liked video games at the time, I also liked video games at the time, and that's part of why I felt such an affinity towards this individual. Um, I respected them because I felt like, despite that whole thing, where because back in during that time when I was a child, I had a bit of a complex about my like towards video games, because I was struggling as a younger student, and I was under the impression that because you have these kinds of hobbies, it's why you're going to be stupid the rest of your life. This individual took that idea of mine and flipped it upside down, and the fact that this person that I grew up to look up to so much, and it's not like this individual has died or anything. I still speak with them. In fact, I spoke with them today through our text chats. But it's the fact that their life is so incredibly difficult, and they're going through so many of these bad things, and they're across the world, and they're practically across the world from me. And it's also the fact that I don't have them for support at the same time. And the only people that I do have, which I'm going to say are my parents, and the other person, that there's also another individual aside from my parents that is in my life. And I'd say that this person broke my heart in a sense. I'm not going to go into too deep. It's already personal enough, but it's at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that my childhood wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be. And I feel like that's a bit overbearing of myself to say, and it's a bit pretentious, because the thing is that the thing is about growing up is that there are a lot of things that go wrong. And I know that there are dashers in the league that have had many things go wrong in their lives. I'm not I do not want to invalidate those at all. And I do not want to say that what I'm going through is worse. That is not what I am saying. What I am saying is that I feel like the things that I wanted to go well didn't. And I feel like that's at least some form of pain that all of us can share.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
I want to just and I feel like because of that, it's as if like the world is against us in that sense. But then the thing is that because of that, I feel like we grew up in ways that none of us could have possibly imagined, and we just aren't aware of it. I feel like being deprived of something is something that made us stronger in that sense. I'm about to be going back into our discussion with the league here. This was a dynamic
No,
that
no, but I feel,
Fathead brought up actually,
but
right?
I feel you on that point, man. I feel you tremendously. Like back when I was younger, it was even harder to play video games. And yeah, having that connection with your parent, like for me, it was my dad. I was able to play video games with my dad because he was into it, and it was even more rare when I was a kid to have a parent who play video games. And as you grow up,
Hmm.
video games wasn't really a thing until the late 2000s, like when it became more serious for adults. So having that connection with that person is great, and then losing it, it sucks, man. Because on the flip side, my grandma, she lost all her memories and stuff, and it was hard to talk with her about anything.
Damn.
So I feel you, man. It feels like you're alone a lot of times because you don't want to talk about it with people. But sometimes when you share with people, you find out like, damn, that person's going through something like that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. That whole aspect of being deprived of something and becoming stronger through your pain, that's something that Fathead once told me when I was still young, in the league at some point. I don't know how Fathead's doing nowadays. If you're seeing this in some shape or form, I
I'm
hope
trying
you've
to
been
get him
doing
back. I'm trying
wonderfully
to get him on
fine.
this show. Give him a shout out. Tell
Yeah.
him to come on.
No, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. If anything, Fathead, I think I don't think a lot of people would protest, despite their own opinions about Fathead, is that he was a very good individual to a lot of our younger members in the league, because it was a whole because that was actually something that he told me at some point that still stuck with me, is that he once told me, I don't know, maybe it was on my birthday. He once told me that like Laggy, you matured in a sense that you didn't. I hope that you're one of those cases of kids that mature without trauma. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I was about to say I'm sorry, but it's like, but I don't really want to do that. I don't want to say I'm sorry for things that are out of my control.
Okay.
I don't want to apologize for it, for something that's out of my control. But the thing is that I feel bad regardless. Um, it's just I feel like if I didn't go through the things that I did, the person I would have been significantly weaker. Let's just go with that, because it is true. And I think a lot of our fellow dashers who tackle a lot of these things with their mental health, with their own personal lives, um, agree with me, because we are living our own lives. It's a road that's full of paths, and we all delve into our own stories in a sense. We're writing our own stories, and it changes genres sometimes. It might be unfortunate, and it might be one of the best things to happen to us in our lives. But regardless, you still wake up as yourself. And I feel like just having a solid sense of who you are as a person, your goals, who you care about, what you want to keep close to your heart is incredibly important. And it's just a concept that people really lose sight of in this chaos that you call our real lives.
Yeah.
We all have our own commitments. We have our hobbies, our loved ones, and sometimes they all come crashing down on you all at once, and you just don't know what to do. And I just feel like in those moments, you just have to remember what kept you standing in the first place. It's a very preachy and corny thing to say, but it's just keeping a good sense of who you are is the first big step to take, I guess.
It's only corny to say if you don't mean it, because a lot of people say that stuff because they heard it somewhere or it sounds good, but they don't mean it. But if you're sincere, then it shouldn't matter. So what? Say it. Say it with your chest. Fuck it,
Yeah,
Laggy.
it's one of the beautiful parts there, ain't it? What's up? You trying to say something
No, no, I just said fuck it, Laggy. Just say it with your chest. It's all right.
there?
You can be an
Yeah.
emotional kid, emotional guy. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, the
Yeah.
main thing about bringing Dasher series out was to we could find the personality, interview the different Dashers and get to know them, the personalities, the things they like about the game, the things they hate about the game. And later on, I wanted to know more about the people, like what they did for fun, what they're doing, what they did, what made a Dasher, like besides Hyper Dash, like other things they did. and now I'm just
That's
trying.
why we appreciate you, man.
I'm trying to follow up and find out what the Dashers are doing. Like what the Dash are doing, man. So what are you up to, man? What do you like? What do you do nowadays for fun? Like what are we doing, Laggy? What are we doing?
All right, so nowadays it's not like I have left VR completely. I still have a friend of mine who I still regularly play video games with along with my other friends. And since I am a senior in high school, and for this past second half of the year I've been an incredibly active theater student.
Okay, dope,
And
super dope.
the,
Am I gonna see you in movies now, bro? Is that what I'm? Am I talking to a movie star?
hopefully I reach that level,
I can see it
hopefully,
happening for sure, bro. 1,000%.
because because the thing is that after all the things that I went through, I realized that at the end of that road, I realized that I want to create. I want to take the pains of our lives. I want to take all the happiness and joys into it, and I just want to see what that can make into art in that sense. I feel like the definition of art is really broadened in that sense, but I just want to just like at the surface level, I just want to like make cool shit, man. I want to be a content creator, but also at the same time, I also want to stay in touch with more practical things like research, because something that I've been approaching with my entire like life so far is I want to pursue my dreams of content creation, being all super famous and cool and making YouTube videos and stuff and all that. But I also have to realize that it's not an easy thing to do. So that's why I've also been making sure that I've been delving into more practical things like technical writing and research.
Yeah.
So aside from all of that, I've been heavily involved in theater, in the sense that I step on a stage as an actor and do plays. And so far, I've done about 4 shows throughout my time in high school. All of them were very interesting, because man, theater is so difficult. I don't because you have to memorize all these lines,
Oh yeah.
all of these things that your characters has to do on stage,
Yeah, you
and
remember
it's
stage
incredibly
directions
rewarding, but
and
it's very
lines.
stressful. Yeah, it's very okay. So my next my final show, actually, because I am a senior in my high school. The thing is, what I liked about this show is it's the fact that the entire almost the entire cast, it is their final show,
Okay.
including our director. And just knowing that is ample reason to put your all into it, your blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I can see the passion that that entire cast has,
And what is the
and it's one of
show?
the most beautiful parts of it.
What is the show? What is it play?
Um, it is a show called Ranked, and
Okay.
it is you can look up the script online. It has been performed before, and it's essentially about these high school kids who live in a dystopian universe where 4.0s are seen as incredibly low scores, where if you don't score above an average that is put on very public leaderboards, then all of your future aspirations will be put like on lower tier jobs and stuff. So like for
Wow.
example, if you wanted to have like a higher job in society, you would have to have like a comically high grade point average, that because in this universe 4.0 is seen as incredibly low. So for example, if you're a 4.0 student, you'll end up as a chef
Oh
or in like some kind
wow.
of back alley restaurant. um Obviously I'm not going to be disclosing other details aside from the premise of the show,
Yeah, it's fine.
but it's I think that it's I wouldn't say it's perfect. There are some pretty weird parts in it, in my opinion. Well, not weird, like in the sense that it's like sexual or anything, but it's like there are directive decisions made in the writing that I really don't like resonate with me that well. But regardless, but the like the general themes of it being about like the up and coming youth, coming to terms with the fact that their world is actually fucked up. I think that's pretty interesting.
That is very
Uh,
interesting. It's super dope.
yeah, yeah, I want to be as impartial as possible to my shows so that I can be as um organic with my performances as your characters, because it's something that's very, I don't know, but it's like a story that has a huge departure from my life, which is already like, if I were to describe it, it feels like if you were to compare like, I don't know, a a G-rated movie in comparison to like an R-rated movie. Like I feel like if my life was a psychological horror, it just feels really weird to be acting in like I don't know, in a Barney episode. Like that's the best way I can describe it.
I get it. I
Like
get
I
it.
don't
I get it. It's a little tame, but you're ready
but
for the
yeah,
big leagues.
but essentially, I can't really say that. I can't say it's beneath me, because if
No, no,
anything,
no. You
as
need the experience.
yeah, as my final show, it's something that I just want to get. It's something that I really want to do right, and it's something that I really want to like. My all of the shows that I have done in theater up until now, I grew in some shape or form. I just want the show to be proof that none of it was a lie.
Yeah,
So it's kind of ironic because we're like acting on stage, but what's funny to me is something that I learned, and it's actually something that I realized I was giving advice to our fellow actors. It was like, how do you act so well? I was like, shit, I can't. That's a pretty difficult question. But when I thought about it, it's the fact that acting is not playing pretend. It's about giving life into a dead character by putting yourself into their shoes. It's not playing pretend because you have to be very focused. Your body has to be focused, your mind has to be focused, and you have to be incredibly aware of who this person is, what's happening in their lives, who they're speaking to, and all of these things you have to be incredibly conscious of to actually act.
yeah,
And that is not pretending, because this one of the things that I said um is that um my name, okay, so in this case, lack of a better word, if I were to put myself in a position, it's let King bring life into this role. Let King bring life into this character that wouldn't have any life otherwise. Because if you look at the script, they're just a name on a sheet of paper with a few words and lines. The thing is that all of that is superficial and fake while it's on a script. It's acting when you bring life into it by having empathy and having consciousness. That's what I think is the main division there, and that's why I think that people who see acting as like something that's like stupid, just as stupid, I think they're just as stupid as how they perceive actors, because people heavily underestimate just how mentally taxing it could be on someone's mind.
no,
There's
absolutely.
this yeah, there's this whole thing called method acting, and we know celebrities that do it,
Yeah.
in the sense that I don't recall, but there are individuals in our acting industry that genuinely drive themselves insane for their roles. Like, we have people
Okay.
cutting and gaining weight for certain roles. I don't know
Oh, you're talking about
specific
Christian
ones.
Bale's for
Oh
the
yes, yes,
machinist.
yes, Christian Bale's, but also
Also,
yeah, more relevant to our current time. That's Bryan Cranston. Bryan Cranston, God,
did he do that?
with Brian, our Walter White from Breaking Bad. Regardless of all memes aside of what Breaking Bad is a show and the whole stigma behind it, with like, oh, just we have to cook type shit.
Oh no, it was great. I
Bryan
love it.
Cranston is a phenomenal actor. I think that's something that we all
No, the
just
range is
borderline agree
spectacular
with.
because I remember as Malcolm's dad because that's something I grew up in the '90s,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
then
no, because like he was like
see
all
him
into
come
those
out
comedic
later.
roles and shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see
yeah,
him come out later as Walter White was crazy.
you're right.
And I remember
It's
when I
crazy.
first saw it, I wasn't really into it. I was like, man, this show sucks. Saw the first two episodes and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. But then later on, I watched way more episodes and I saw what was going on. I was like, wow, this show has a lot of depth.
Yeah,
But
yeah. One of this,
to the flip side of that, hold on. To
yeah,
the flip side of that is evil Jason Bateman. I don't like it.
evil Jason Bate.
There's this new movie called I think it's called Carry On, where he's like an evil guy. Oh, I don't.
Hmm?
I told my lady the whole time like I don't like this movie. It's annoying that like he just does not play an evil guy great. You know what Jason Bateman is?
Jason Bateman.
Uh,
I think because the thing is, I'm not good at remembering
it's
names,
cool. It's cool.
right?
But that's just a point of an actor
Oh
who
shit, this our guy from Ozark?
he's in Ozark. Yeah, I think he is the guy from Ozark. You're right. I think he was the guy from.
Ah, okay. Wait, him as a villain, huh?
Yeah, he's a bad
Was that
guy.
the whole thing?
And Carry On, I don't know about Ozark because I haven't watched it. I know he's an accountant or something, but in Carry On, this movie that's on Netflix, he's a bad guy, complete evil bad guy, making this other guy do horrible
Huh.
things. And I'm like, bro, I cannot believe you making anybody do anything. You're the guy from
I
Arrested Development.
okay, I kind of feel you. I think that was like the thing with the who was the kid that played Harry Potter? I forgot his name. I don't know why I'm
Oh,
forgetting.
I know what you're talking about though.
Um, but like he played some villain roles.
Did
I
he?
think it was like in Now You See Me, that like weird magician movie.
Oh, interesting.
But it was like these. It's kind of like spy thriller meets like magicians and stuff.
Okay.
But like the guy that played Harry Potter,
Yeah.
he was it was Daniel Radcliffe, right? Yeah, I don't know how to
Daniel
forget. Yeah,
Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe
Yeah.
was like the main antagonist in the sequel, and I'm just like, is he about to start casting spells on us or some shit? Like, I was kind of put off by it, right? So anyway, we're going off topic here. Going back to Bryan Cranston, I wanted to bring this up badly.
Yeah.
The thing is I recall hearing an interview with him in Breaking Bad when Walter White is watching one of Jesse's girlfriend had overdosing in the bed and shit. When he was acting through that scene, I recall him speaking in an interview that he was really putting his mind into the scene, in the sense that if you were to look up the original scene right now, you can see that there's a moment where Walter White is very clearly shooken up by this fact that this woman is currently choking to death on her own vomit in bed from overdosing. And while Walter White is watching this, it's like he's about to cry. He's like terrified. He's scared shitless. And if anything, he was about to help her. But then all of a sudden, you see his expression just change. All of a sudden, this man that was so incredibly concerned for this young lady that's about to die, all of a sudden, he's just watching as if it was like a CCTV camera watching a murder go down. The lenses are just zooming in, just really focusing on the situation, and then she dies as he watches. What really hit me with this scene was not the scene itself, but it was Bryan Cranston's take on it. The thing is, when Bryan Cranston was acting in this scene, that moment when you see Walter White nearly bring himself to tears watching this, it's because Bryan Cranston himself stated that he imagined his daughter dying in that bed.
Wow.
And then at some point, this voice he brought up, this voice that he let go in his head, and this whole dynamic of having this really intimate and wholehearted side of this individual being interrupted by this cold and calculated drug dealer, essentially. It was the best. I don't exactly know how he went about it in his interview, but he said, "Oh my God, this is my daughter dying in my bed. Like, I want to save her life. Like, I'm so concerned for her." And then all of a sudden, this voice comes in that just says, "So what?" And that just and I was like, wow, because it's just having that line of thinking in your brain, and having to constantly tackle with that kind of mindset, even if it is not real, you are acting. And that has a severe mental toll on an individual. And I say this as someone who has played a villainous role before, actually. I played our main antagonist from the Discworld's Hogfather, the assassin Talatame. Insane. He has a glass eye, and he basically, the entire play, he's like in the backdrop, he's like in the back scenes, just like manipulating everything. This is the kind of guy that punches people for no reason so that he could use teeth to make sure that people don't believe in their equivalent of the Santa Claus. Yes, guys, I played the Grinch in an alternate universe. Laugh it the fuck up, all right? But
you play
either way, what I'm trying to get at here is that there's this scene where this mentally ill assassin goes completely batshit. And when I was going, and the thing is, it's such a weird, I still think about it to this very day, and it's why part of me is kind of scared of acting. It's because when I remember our closing night for that final fight scene. It's where he had to go batshit and he was fighting the main character. Up to his death scene, I remember finishing that scene and just being completely happy about it. I'm like, yes, I got it all correct. I was so happy about it, right? Because I stepped out into our green room. I cooled off for a little bit. I'm like, yes, I did it. I'm so happy. What just happened? What? Wait, did that just happen? Like, did I just get done like doing all that? And then by the time that the curtain call was over, I'm like exchanging pleasantries with fellow actors, our audience members saying thank you, and all of that. And then they're like, "Yo, dude, that part where you spun the knife was crazy. How long did you like practice that?" I'm like, "I spun the knife? I did that?" and then they're like, "Oh yeah, what about man, the way that you like you was like scowled and shit, or the way that you were so scary." And then I'm just like, "I don't remember that part though."
But you did it.
Yeah, and that's and it's because I was focused.
Yeah.
I was in that scene.
Locked
I was
in.
conscious of what that person wanted to do at that time. That I actually like what it because what's incredibly
You
weird
became the
about me.
character, bro. You became the
Yeah,
character.
yes, becoming your character.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. Because the thing is that what my director pointed out to me is how every single time I'm talking about characters that I played on stage, I always refer to them as if they were a different person. I did this unconsciously when I was reviewing the footage of one of our shows when they were given to us in private in the form of a video file. When I was watching the scene that I was in, I was like, yeah, no, the part where he like yells at this guy, and then they're like, "King, that's you," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, no, yeah." It's like, it's just something that really like, it's something that really just like, I'm just like, wow, that's actually so interesting, and that's so crazy, because I genuinely do believe that the king, when he is the king, the me that's acting on stage really isn't me. Like I just like shut that side away. But regardless, what the thing is, like, while it isn't me in a certain sense, it's me bringing life into that character. So and it's just a point of that, the fact that it's possible to reach such a high level of focus to the point where you just mentally shut out like that. That's like a form of acting that I have never experienced in a while. If I did experience it at some point before, I don't recall it, but it was incredibly strong,
Yeah.
because that was like my final play performance. Those were my last play performances. That was my previous performance, if
Bro.
anything, before the final one that I'm doing right now.
Bro, you were
And
cooking. You're cooking, bro.
yeah, so it's just something that I was incredibly impressed by. And then that's what really grounded in the fact by that point that, wow, so it really is different. Cause that's why I always really drive in the fact that acting is not playing pretend. And
No.
it's just, you bring in all of these extra things into your life,
There's a
like from your life, all these experiences, these emotions, and then you just bring it onto the stage for the audience.
there's a difference between being an actor playing a part and becoming the character. You know, like you could tell when when people are playing the part and they're just saying lines. They're just going through the motions. They're not really into it, and you could tell the people who
Right?
actually believe they're the character and they're a part of the show. They're in part of the story. But that's awesome, bro. Can we see any of your work online? Like, where do we see this work?
Okay, so what's very unfortunate about most of my works is the fact that all of them were like paid for by my director, and that there's a legal agreement is that if they were to be publicized, there is potential for legal action.
Okay.
The only performance that I have is saved on a flash drive that I downloaded from Google Drive, and it's basically meant for like personal use from our friends and family.
Okay.
If it weren't for those legal commitments, then I would be so happy to show, because I just feel like they're just so incredible, and it's just the fact that those shows can never be performed again,
Yeah.
because like there's perfect imperfections, and it's just they can never be replicated.
Of course.
And that's just like that's just one of the most beautiful parts of acting for me personally, because like, but you can record them. Like for the ones that can be recorded, that's all cool and all. But for actors that are in their dog days, it's the fact that there are some individuals who are incredibly passionate about what they do, and it's the whole hidden aspect of the fact that they can die out in obscurity in the future, that you can see this fire in them. And it's something that is incredible, and it's something that's very unique to just not low levels per se, but it's like the lower art echelons of acting in that sense. It's very pretty.
That's
And it's
dope.
just how they bring all these extra aspects into their lives, like their hobbies, who they like and who they hate, and they bring life into this dead character on the script. It's incredibly rewarding. It teaches you things about etiquette, and about who you are as a person, and you just grow from it. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Hey man, well I'm from the era where you had to be there to experience it. There wasn't always online to record or stream or download or anything like that. So that's cool that you're able to do it and people are able to experience it. Second word of advice I have for you is take notes, take notes, take notes because trust me, like right now it might seem boring. Your generation, your high school years, all that stuff that's going on might seem boring, but 30, 40 years from now, you're going to read that stuff and it's going to be gold, man. It's going to be gold. I wish I would have taken more video, more notes. Then I
Yeah,
could
that's what
I could
that's what I'm
definitely
really doing my
capitalized
best
on
to be
it.
cognizant of.
But that's pretty much it. We've done over an hour, Laggy. Thank you so much for joining me, man. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much for listening to all my tangents about like acting and all of that,
Nah,
Dre, because
man.
it's part of a passion of mine, and it's also the fact that I'm so passionate about it. And what's ironic is that none of it can be seen by our fellow Dashers. That's exactly
Not
why
yet.
I
Not
want to
yet.
do my best to make sure that's not the case. So
Eh,
if anything, I'm glad you brought me on here because it just like reaffirms my ambitions in that sense.
Hey man, I don't know if you know this, but I used to be into TV production back in high school. The whole reason I got into that class was because I wanted to edit my backyard wrestling tapes, and it got me to Germany. I got to study film in Germany for a couple of weeks. I made a few like short films and stuff like that, but just to fuck around, just to mess around and have fun with my friends. If I would have taken it more serious, I now see what it could have become because YouTube wasn't around yet, but I would have been better prepared for YouTube. But I saw a lot of my friends who did take advantage of it, who were better prepared, ready to take on YouTube, that are now seeing all their sketches and videos like blow up. And I wish I would have taken advantage of that. But the
Yeah.
main thing is man, do what you want and have fun. And trust me, if you're
Yep.
having fun, the people that are watching, listening, are gonna have fun. And I can't wait to watch a movie with you in it, man.
Absolutely. If I were to say one last thing before I close this
Go
off,
ahead.
some form of advice I guess. I said earlier there were a lot of scattered ideas in this interview so far. There might have been a lot of things that I would have wanted to finish saying but couldn't. But either way, at something that I do want to make completely defined. If you did make it to this point, I thank you very much. It means a lot to me. If anything, I you probably don't even know who I am unless you're one of our veterans. But something that I do want to say is that our life is full of a bunch of roads that none of us can possibly predict. You can be smart enough, you might be able to do so, and that's wonderful. But that's not how life works, unfortunately. There are a lot of things that you might not be able to predict. But when you're walking down that road, you're going to hold hands and you're going to interact with a lot of people. Recall that the only person that is walking on that road is you. You're going to hear things and you're going to be told a lot of things that might drive you into the floor. In those moments, you don't even know what to do. I'd say to just remember who you are in that moment, what kept you standing in the first place. And no matter how precious this individual may be, no matter how much you may look up to this individual, this person could be your hero, if anything. Regardless if the person that tells you that you're not going to make it is the most important person to you in your life, the only person that is walking on that path is yourself. That's all. Thank you very much, Dre. I'm so glad we had this conversation. I was
Yeah,
incredibly
man.
nervous, but I feel like that's just the magic with you and this studio, and it's
You don't
going
have
to
to be
be
nervous.
one of the milestones in my life, man.
Hey,
We
man.
all appreciate you. Our veterans appreciate you. Shout out to Dre Day all day. Maybe not today, but probably at least in this interview, you were Dre Day in every sense of the word, man.
Hey,
We
man.
appreciate you.
Hey, I'm glad to hear that, bro. I mean, we'll catch up again maybe a couple years from now. But good to hear from you, man. And I hope to see you in pubs. I'm not in there much. I'll be honest. I know they're trying to keep the game alive. I'm excited for the new game. I'm super duper excited for the new game. But I hope they have like private lobbies or off lobbies because I can't hang with those sweats, bro. I just suck at those. But shout outs to everybody who viewed the last episode. I hope you viewed this episode. And shout outs to all the vets out there who are still playing the game. And huge shout outs to Triangle Factory for still doing it, still giving us updates and all that good stuff, man. I mean, they brought this beautiful community together. I couldn't ask for anything more. All right, we're gonna get the fuck out of here. Laggy, Dre Day all
Yep.
day, Josh League TV. We're gonna get out of here. Peace.
Peace.